Throughout the lifespan, we have always emphasized the importance of the relationship between the parent or the caregiver and the child. In the first few years of life, we emphasize the importance of attachment and how that creates the basis or the foundation for later development. When we talked about middle childhood, we emphasized the importance of family function and how that creates the foundation for learning. And now, when we enter into adolescence, the relationship is continue to be important. However, it's going to go through what we call a test or a period of trial, because usually conflict with parents typically peak around this stage of development, especially between mothers and daughters. And that conflict comes in the form of just bickering about day-to-day concerns, minor conflicts about doing your chores, doing your homework, staying within curfew, your dress code, cleaning your room, all of those little things that parents demand of their children. And children or adolescent usually try to exercise their independence and search for identity by rebelling against. However, we see cultural differences in this area, and not in every culture do we see parent child conflict. In some cultures, there's a stress on familism, which is basically the belief that family members should support one another and sacrifice their individual freedom for the success or the harmony of the family. However, in a culture like ours in the United States, where we value independence and individualism, we sometimes tend to see an escalation in this area of expression of individuality and personal beliefs. And sometimes you might see adolescents even engaging, deliberately provoking an argument with their parent about a topic that they see that the parent holds a different view about, just so that they can kind of exercise that voice of theirs. Um, in any relationship, there are important factors that are very critical to making that relationship work. And yes, we do acknowledge that there is conflict, there is bickering during this period, but closeness within the family is very crucial. So you can have um, you can have that rebellious and impulsive behavior and fearful, dangerous, adventurous child, as long as you have them within um, a relationship that has open communication and support and connectedness and some sort of a moderate control. Then that child will get over that period. That teenager will very well become supported and become successful eventually, and will not really engage in risky behavior. However, if you end up with a teenager who is trying to exercise their voice, and you do not have that open communication and support and connectedness and moderate control, you might end up with a rebellious adolescent who is probably going to engage in risky behavior, just so that they can exercise that rebellions and breaking the law, so that they can kind of get back at their parent. Parental monitoring is really connected to that concept of control. So that control can be positive or negative. Parental monitoring is basically the parents' ongoing awareness of what their children are doing, where are they, and who are they with. And this might sound like it's a controlling recipe, but the truth is, if this recipe was delivered within a warm, supportive relationship, then the result is going to be a positive, confident, well educated adolescent who does not engage in risky behavior and is not subjected to drugs or risky sex, what we see is that when the that monitoring is part of a overly restrictive, controlling, authoritarian kind of parenting where there is no warmth in the relationship, it's a cold relationship and overly restrictive, then the results are going to be negative and you're going to have a rebellion teenager. So it's all about how you deliver your care. Um, Most times, parents tend to think that their children are more resentful than they really are, and in return, children sometimes think that their parents are more controlling than they really are. What we need to understand is that the period that adolescents are going through is a period that requires active listening and accommodation, because each one of them is coming from a different level of development, different level of cognitive development. And then, if we have that support system, then we can avert a lot of negative outcomes that are kind of part of the recipe of adolescence.